It's a very exciting time in the field of reading research because we've learned so much over the last 10 to 20 to 30 years about how to teach kids to read. And we're really at a point now where everybody can learn to read, even students that have intellectual disability that in the past we weren't sure what to do to help them learn to read. So there's an awful lot that we know. There isn't nearly as much research about students with intellectual disability and how they learn to read. Some of the things that we do know is that they are able to memorize sight words. So many programs in the past have focused on sight words and recognizing sight words. We also know they can learn isolated skills such as letter sounds and some phonemic awareness. One of the challenges that we have is teaching them how to blend sounds together and actually use all of those isolated skills in a systematic way. In recent years, we've done more comprehensive research with students with intellectual disability, where we have provided them with instruction that's broader and covers a wide range of skills, so all of the basic skills necessary. And the exciting news is that those programs have been effective. Some of the differences between students with intellectual disability versus students with other types of disabilities or struggling readers in general are that they need an intensive amount of practice and repetition. But many of the same strategies that work for students without disabilities who struggle or students with other disabilities also work for students with intellectual disability. For example, the basic I do, we do, you do way of instruction, where you provide very explicit instruction and then you do that yourself. So I do, you demonstrate. For example, you might say, tell me the sounds in Sam. Listen to me do it first. Sam, s, ah, Very explicitly, you do the I part. And then you say, we. Let's do it together. Am, and the child does it with you. And then you have them do it by themselves. So that I do, we do, you do is something that we've done for years with all types of students, including those with disabilities. And this is very effective for students with intellectual disability. Some of the things that are unique for students with intellectual disability, like I said, the amount of repetition that's needed, the intensity of that practice, but also there are some procedures that we use like errorless learning, where we actually just have students echo. You tell them the word that you're practicing and they repeat it. So you have some of that echo reading and scaffolding. So we use scaffolding much more extensively with students with intellectual disability. One of the things that's different for students with intellectual disability is the rate of their progress. They need more intensive repetition before they're able to make the same amount of progress as a student without a disability or even a student with another type of disability. It's really important as teachers that we give students plenty of practice. We continue with that explicit modeling and allowing students to practice and persist and not give up. It's been very interesting to look at the data, and the data shows us that generally speaking, students with higher IQs do make faster progress in reading, but sometimes two students with the exact same IQ number, which is only a very rough estimate of potential, will make very different rates of progress. So you really can't make decisions based on that number. You have to be very careful. So our research has shown us that you need to be very persistent with students and give them the opportunity. And it may take quite a while before you see that progress. For students with intellectual disability, you need to know quite a bit as a teacher. You really have to have the most expert knowledge about how to teach reading to teach a student with an intellectual disability. It's critically important that you know how to pronounce sounds. There are a couple of tips that help tremendously with students and their ability to blend. This works for struggling readers, it works for students with dyslexia, other types of disabilities too, but it's just particularly important for a student with an intellectual disability. For example, some sounds can be held out. So like the sound for the letter S. You can stretch that sound. And when you're teaching students to blend, you can model how sounds connect. So instead of going s, at, you can go sat, sat, and really model that blending process. And it may take a while, but they will learn how to blend and then apply that to sounding out words. These types of skills we know from the science about how students learn to read and how skilled readers read. These are critical. You have to be able to process the inner structure of words, both the way they sound as well as how that maps onto print. And this is something that students with intellectual disability are able to learn, but it takes more time than students with other types of disabilities. One challenge in teaching students with intellectual disability is dealing with attention challenges, memory challenges, and other behavior issues. So it's always good to have a great behavior management expert to give you assistance in how to support behavior and make sure that students are attending to the task. So the behavior is a challenge for students with intellectual disability. One way that we can improve that behavior is to have routines in place that are, our instructional routines are very clear and very explicit. When a student experiences success, they're going to behave better, they're going to attend better. And once you get those routines established and they're successful, then you see behavior improve dramatically. For example, we had 2 students in our study who had autism and intellectual disability, and they were very difficult to manage. But within about a month of persistent instruction and very clear routines, they sat very attentive for a 45-minute lesson. And before, they had only attended to just a couple of minutes at a time. So once you establish those routines, you can see dramatic improvement in the way that students are able to attend and pay attention to the tasks. The most important thing we've learned from our research is to give every student the opportunity to learn to read and persist long enough to see them through to having success.